Hello, everyone. And I've listened to this theme song now. This is terrible. It's the worst music I've ever heard.
But I think it's great for the first show.
I think so. Why not, right?
It just takes us back. You know, we're of a certain stage of life, a certain age, and I mean that's just some feel good. You know, like maybe Beavis and Butthead, throw it out, good stuff.
It's like Muzak, you know.
It kind of with the rock twist. Yes.
Yeah.
Not the piano. Yes, violin based Muzak.
This is that's not an original, by the way. That's someone else wrote that song and took the time to record it for whatever reason they felt that necessary.
And we have rights to it, so we don't have to pay any royalties.
That's right.
So that's the most important thing because our budget is minimal.
It's very minimal.
It's minimal. Yes. So welcome everybody.
Welcome everybody
to the first podcast.
This is 001 or 0001.
Whatever it is, it's got a 1.
It's got a 1. I'm Dave. That's Doc. I call myself Dave because that's my name, and I call him Doc because although I've never seen this degree that apparently he has or this medical license, he is actually a doctor.
One day we'll take you to my office and you can see the diploma.
Yeah,
it's nice and framed.
Nice and framed. Vistaprint.
Yes.
Is that where you get it?
Or you got 3 easy payments of $9.99 from You Can Be an MD too.
How many years is it? And I mean, this is something that I've wanted to ask you for a long time, and I don't know why I haven't, but why not now? How many years school? I mean, is it like 8 years of college? Is it
the
couple of weekends and a part-time internship?
I did. You know, what is it? Two weekends a year and 2 weeks out of the whole summer. You know,
that's right.
So it's a great question, and traditionally it's 4 years of undergraduate, and then you do 4 years of medical school, and then after that, if you go straight into your residency, which is basically where you train to do what you want to do,
right? General
residencies are anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So for me, being internal medicine, it was 3 years. If you do general surgery, as a contrast, it's a 5-year program. Orthopedic surgery.
So like 11 years.
So it's a long time. It's a long vacation. And for myself, you know, I was non-traditional when I went through, and so it was actually 4.5 years of college because that was back when the University of Tennessee in the late 90s and early 2000s, our football was so strong that I really kind of just procrastinated and needed my 5th football season. And so took advantage of that in 2002. We ended up losing, actually, in the Peach Bowl down in Atlanta, 31-3 to Maryland. Not that still holds a scar in my heart.
So you were like a medical student red shirt? Is that what you were?
Something like that. I was actually a business guy, and so I graduated, and I went up to work in Michigan, and they, for an automotive company, and basically... it was kind of as I took the money and ran because those jobs do pay pretty darn well, which is why the industry is so big up there in the Detroit area. And I did that for a little over a year, but realized I was supposed to go to medical school, supposed to be a doctor. One of those freak out moments, when you're 23 and you're like, this was so awesome. I'm out of school and this is wonderful. And, I'm making good money and blah, blah. And it's like, man, Michigan is beautiful in the summer.
Not so great.
But it's just pretty dark, for about 9.5 months out of the year.
Oh, yeah.
But despite that, I knew I was supposed to go to medical school. And so I actually left and had to come back, came back home, obviously, because budgetary things and whatnot. And I had to take just general science stuff to even try to get to medical school. Because when I was an undergrad, business major, I'm not taking chemistry, I'm not taking biology, physics, genetics. I don't need any of that stuff. I took geology, and it was pretty awesome. So I took the rock geology 101 first, and then I did environmental geology. And really, what I got out of that was rivers and streams are awesome, and Mohs hardness scale, which is the different. Kind of classifications for different minerals, how hard they are. So and there's 10 of them.
Was it an entire semester on erosion?
It was.
was that?
That 103 class, I don't remember a lot about it. The 101, though, I remember playing with the rocks in the lab and stuff. And
Oh, so that cliff was like bigger, like 200 years ago.
that's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
no kidding.
And we brought in the kudzu and stopped the erosion, and now everybody has kudzu. So there you go.
That's right.
That's it. That's it. That's it. But if you ever need to know, diamond is the hardest mineral.
Yes.
Talc is the softest.
So I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that about talc. I knew that about diamonds.
Yes.
I also just found out yesterday, is it Saturn, Jupiter? It's a planet that we don't inhabit.
Yet.
It actually rains diamonds on this planet.
Oh.
And I can't remember which one it is. It's
Jupiter. It isn't Jupiter that has all the crazy gases and stuff, and so I would wonder if maybe that
maybe
that mix causes. We'd have to look that up. I don't honestly know.
I just heard this yesterday from someone who did not take any.
Right, didn't know that it was
right.
It was talc, gypsum, calcite, fluorite, apatite, orthoclase, feldspar, quartz, topaz, corundum, and diamond for the Mohs hardness scale.
Good gracious!
That's it. That's all I got, brother.
That's it. I was going to say that's pretty deep.
No, that's it. That's it, man.
Well, I was a communications major, so this is what I mean. It was.
This is why you're leading. It's
leading
this show.
It's the easiest degree. Listen. Quite honestly, it's the reason why a lot of these athletes that know they're going pro. It's like, what's your degree? Mass communication. And I laugh and then kind of say, well, wait a minute. that was
me.
That was me.
That was me. I was having a good time.
Oh,
that's right.
But yeah, so.
And you found your way back to this.
It's full circle. Full circle.
That's the way it is. You are where you're supposed to be.
So format for this show is there's not really one. As you just, we were just talking about rocks.
It's originals
a
with
minute
Dave
ago.
and Doc, and we're just kind of going to wing it and see kind of where the road takes us.
That's true. But since you are a doctor, there will be some doctor related questions.
I will do my best to answer them.
Yeah, well, although I'm interested in geology.
We exhausted.
That was it. And we exhausted what you had.
Yeah, we exhausted that in approximately 5 minutes.
So hey, you know what? Let me tell you something cool.
We'll have to move on.
Here's something cool. This has nothing to do with anything we've talked about, but I'm just looking at a picture of it right now. So that's what sprung it in my head. I actually bought one share of the Green Bay Packers.
And what led us to do that?
So,
as I know, you are a very dedicated 49ers fan.
I am, and this isn't being filmed, but for all you folks, most of the things in here are red. There's a lot of 49ers stuff. There's a signed Joe Montana football. But
Joe knows Super Bowls.
He does. He definitely knows Super Bowls.
Yes.
But no, so the Packers are the only publicly owned franchise in the NFL.
Yes, this is true.
And they open up every once in a while. They'll open up, shares to sell to people. It's usually when the stadium needs some renovations. They're pretty honest about it.
We call it. It's hidden instead of saying it's the building fund.
Right. It's like
offering stock options.
We need new urinals, so we're going to offer up some stock, and that's what essentially that's what they said. They didn't say urinals, but I think it's for the stadium. I think it's for Lambeau Field.
Makes sense.
And so
they need capital.
Yeah, so so they had, they offer. I think it was 300,000 shares. They were, I don't know. Anyway, you had to basically log on to this website, and it was this graphic that I can't even describe. It was like a walking person, and it showed your place in line because that many people were trying to buy stock for the Green Bay Packers.
And what was your initial place in line? Do you remember?
Oh, it was. I can just tell you that the graphic was probably 9 inches wide, and my little guy that was walking, his legs were barely moving. It was an animated graphic of a guy walking, kind of like, and as the day went on, I would check this website, and my little guy was walking faster, and then I finally got in, and you got like 20 minutes to make the transaction. And so all that, and I bought one share of the Green Bay Packers.
But you own.
I'm an NFL owner.
an NFL team.
I wanted you to know that you're sitting in the presence of someone who owns an NFL
I'm pretty
franchise.
blown away, and we also know that you're able to multitask effectively now too.
That's right. That's right.
Affect anything.
That's right.
That's pretty impressive. Do they like like Disney stock will mail you like a little like dollar bill thing saying, "Hey, you own such and such." Do they do anything like that?
So I just got it. It's a letter from the president of the Green Bay Packers and a stock certificate. It's actually sitting over there. We're trying to find a frame where we can put it.
So you are going to put it up here with the 49ers.
I'm going to put it on the other
college.
wall. Maybe I can't. I don't feel right about putting it close to.
Yeah, I think
Maybe over here.
I think Steve and Joe and Roger and Jerry, of course, would say, I don't know that you can put that up around us, especially after the whole COVID toe fiasco with Aaron Rodgers and all that. I think they would probably have a fit over that, considering those guys playing with concussions and all kinds of stuff.
That's true. Although some people probably think I got a concussion because I bought one share of the Green Bay Packers.
I think it's pretty cool. No. I mean, being an avid sports fan, that's a lot of fun, and it's it's fun to kind of just participate, and that's something a little bit different that you can be a part of, and I think that's pretty cool.
I thought it was pretty cool.
I think it's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that that it was available for sale, because I might have tried to hop in on that too.
But
you
very sorry.
You just left me out in the cold, and I know why. It's because the little man, he would have walked even slower.
He would have
had I been in the pool.
That's right.
I got it.
Well, I would have been happy to go ahead and front the cash for you to
That's awesome.
to get you a share.
I would have been good. I would have been good for you. I'd have been good for it. Yeah, they've been good.
It was cool though. I thought, that's how many people can say that they own, well, I guess 300,000 this time can say that, but and a lot more. I don't know how many shares there are of the Green Bay
It
Packers.
would really be neat if they put like where your money went.
Right.
Like for example,
Urinal 6.
Sorry.
Urinal cake 6.
You have helped with this ketchup dispenser.
Someone is peeing on you actively now.
Yes, that's it. That's it. You just kind of peed your money away, right? No,
Well, that's yeah.
That's right. So because having donated sometimes other places, they'll send you a pic and like an article of what they use the money for. And that's always kind of neat just to see that. So maybe you're there'll be another letter that comes here and says, "Hey, here's what we did with your money."
Maybe
it might be urinal number 6. It might be the ketchup dispenser. It might
maybe it's therapy for the other players having to deal with Aaron Rodgers.
A new X-ray machine. I mean, it could be anything. Could be anything.
And what happened to Aaron Rodgers? I mean, here's somebody that like 10 years ago was in the Super Bowl. They were playing the Steelers. And I mean, here's a guy that he was funny. He was on all these commercials, and just this super likable guy. And all of a sudden, he turned into like this hipster doofus or something. Like he's this antisocial hippie kind of. I don't want to say entitled, because I mean he probably does have a level of entitlement. I mean he's won a lot of games, but he's a great quarterback. He's a great athlete.
Yeah, when you're one of the, I mean, really and truly one of the best quarterbacks to ever play.
Yeah,
I mean in that discussion, hands down, you certainly carry a certain weight with you. I honestly I kind of look at it. I'm like, did he just get kind of burned out with some of the system stuff? I mean, how many years did they either not keep weapons that they had, or they didn't really try to get him the help that he probably deserved. I mean, and he's had good people. I mean, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, those sorts of players. But it's like ever since that Super Bowl, they've flirted with having the right team, but it was like they needed a couple more pieces, and I've kind of thought, I was like, man, this guy, he's so good. He may have just gotten burned out on them and just said, I'm gonna let my hair grow out. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that because I've got to express it in some other way, because it's such a political game within the football game too.
Yeah.
And I think with with this past year, with everything, with the contract and not wanting to play because of not feeling supported. I mean, I think that certainly wears on you, and I think that's part of it. And the other side, he seems like he does have some conservative tendencies, and I think he actually made a pretty good point about the cancel culture thing, because he was basically like, well, they're just going to come get me now,
Right.
which is not really fair either,
Right.
But I think honestly, I'd like to just say I think he just got burned out,
Maybe.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
It's hard to feel empathy for someone who is a multi-millionaire playing a game and making millions of dollars. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, when I hear these athletes complain about their work situations and stuff, and listen, mental stress is mental stress. I don't care how much money you have, and I totally get that.
Truth. That's
But
true.
when it's, well, yeah, I don't have the right team around me, and I don't have I mean, yeah, but you're also doing this Zoom call from your 65,000 square foot mansion. You know what I mean? It's like, it's
Right. How bad can you really
right.
feel for them
Right.
in that scenario? And I definitely.
I mean, if they cut the guy's salary and he was making $500 a week or something, then I get it. Then you could complain. But I don't know. I have a hard time with professional athletes when they complain about some of those situations, and maybe I should be a little more sympathetic, but
Well, I think it's one of those feeling like you're a piece of meat at times, which that can happen in any job. But these guys, I guess the physical beating that they take, and if you think about the average career span is really so short.
it is.
Overall, I think maybe that's part of it too. And I mean, and he's been beat up. I mean, you don't know when he gets to be 50, 55.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, his body's probably not going to feel awesome. So
He might become a patient of yours.
he might come down and see us.
Maybe you can get a share of Packers stock then.
And that might be the trade-off. They'd say, listen, you can be the main donor for the hot dog wrappers.
There you go.
Or the insignia on the helmets or something. That's right. That's right. You never know. You never know. We'd be honored to see him. But no, it is hard. You just don't feel that. Like I said, you don't feel that sadness in that regard, because they are able to if they're wise with their money, and he's obviously a very smart guy,
Right.
So obviously I'm sure he's made really good investments. Same thing with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Making those good choices and having yourself a setup fund where you're protected, or guys that get into second careers after
Right.
they play. I mean, look at Michael Strahan. I mean, good gracious.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He's going
becoming
up in
Ryan
space.
Seacrest.
He's going up in space. I mean, or went up in space. But it's all about just making smart decisions and protecting yourself as you get older. But yeah, in the moment it's hard. It's like, well, you're playing a game that kids play and you get paid millions of dollars.
Right. And again, it's not like he's supporting a lot of people.
Right.
He's dating celebrities,
Right.
and
Engaged now.
engaged to an actress, and before that it was Danica Patrick.
Olivia Munn, yes.
Yeah, so I mean he's doing okay.
No,
So
he's done very well for
but,
us.
I mean, you mentioned Manning though, but I mean Peyton Manning and Eli, both millionaires. I never heard a complaint from either person ever. And I mean, you look at their dad Archie, who played for historically one of the worst teams in the history of football. I mean, these are fans when he played for the Saints that were wearing bags on their head because they didn't want anyone to recognize them.
This is true.
And they call themselves the Aints.
True. No, and you're right.
And he got beat up and never said publicly anyway, never said a harsh word about his contract. I'm not making enough money. I mean, this is the equivalent of just standing on the street getting hit by a baseball bat and someone paying me. I mean, he never, which is what it was.
Right. No, and that's true. And I think, I think that that obviously speaks to them as an overall family and
Yeah.
things. And that's not to say that they've not ever had any sort of controversy or things happen.
Sure.
Because every family goes through that and everybody has problems. But you're right. I mean, I think there's also a level of not feeling like you have to get mixed up in that too, and just being like, I'm just going to take the high road here because I really don't have to mess with that. Or also just supporting other people doing other things, and people are like, well, Peyton got mad at whichever receiver and he cussed him out, on the sideline in the middle of the game, but nobody's ever going to get aggravated about that because he got mad, but he's not a bad guy,
right?
And I think that's where you some of this with Aaron Rodgers, he's definitely getting that perception on himself that you're doing some things here that just are not. It's not good. It's just not good. I mean, I'm immunized.
Yeah.
which was not a lie.
It was not.
But you say that
perhaps a little misleading,
and then something happens, and then it really reflects poorly upon you. And he's right. He didn't tell a lie. He didn't. But he didn't. Well, I mean, of course, and it's the same thing on a completely different topic. Lincoln Riley sits there after Oklahoma loses in Bedlam to Oklahoma State, and he says, "I'm not going to be the next coach at LSU." That's correct.
That's accurate.
You already had the deal in place with USC, so it's tricky because how mad can you get at him? Well, obviously, if you're a fan or if you're a supporter, it's pretty aggravating when somebody misrepresents anything like that.
Yeah,
particularly, I mean, back to Aaron Rodgers, particularly in this day and age with COVID being so rampant and things being just the way that they are and have been for so long, and that's tough. And I don't obviously I'm just a nobody here sitting here trying to enjoy our podcast. But I do as a fan of Aaron Rodgers because I mean I think he's an amazing quarterback.
I kind of feel like he's an employee of mine now, just to be perfectly honest.
Technically, I think he is. I mean, you could probably call him and say, "Hey, what are you doing?"
I think his number's on the back of the stock certificate.
That was actually the real kicker of it. Is yes, for your paid amount, you will be able to call him. He is on call 24 hours a day.
That's right.
7 days a week.
That's right.
1-800-CALL Aaron. I think it's unfortunate. It's just one of those rough things. And I mean, he got blistered. I mean, by the media.
He did.
Which I mean, the media's historically more on the liberal side of things anyway. But I mean, people were just saying, dude, why did you not just tell the truth?
Right.
And I think that's applicable. That's a life lesson is, if you just tell the truth, even if it's really bad and it goes bad.
Right.
People can't really bust you up too much. Like, well, he told the truth.
Yeah.
But yet time and time again, or misrepresent. Don't misrepresent because technically he didn't lie, I guess. But that's what always gets people in trouble.
Well,
every single time, it's like they misrepresent or they just straight up told a lie. And I mean, go back all the way through history and even recent history, and it's like, why did you do that?
Well, and I mean, anytime you use the phrase technically they didn't lie, I mean, it's you don't say that. It's like, well, technically they didn't lie. It's always with a negative connotation, right? It's like, well, technically you didn't perjure yourself.
Right. That's some lawyer stuff for sure. And that's that's not good.
What is it? Technically accurate is the best kind of accurate. Was that the?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, and so the NFL are they? They're not requiring vaccinations, right? I don't think they're requiring it, or
I think what they did, my understanding is, it's not a requirement, but it's a completely different set of protocols.
Right.
If you are vaccinated versus unvaccinated. For example, one of the things they brought up about Aaron Rodgers was you're having live meetings with the media and you're not wearing a mask.
Right.
And he had done that all season. And they were like, per hour, and that's why they got fined. Not that it was an astronomical amount of money when you're talking about billions and billions of dollars, but that's why they fined him was because they were not following that. And when you travel, you're not supposed to leave the hotel. There's kind of the
Right.
quarantine rules. You're not supposed to be out and about versus a vaccinated person can go out and about. Now, how much sense does that really make? When you're talking about the fact that even fully vaccinated folks, for example, with the Delta variant, if you got Moderna, there's still a 10% chance that you could get the Delta variant.
Right.
Even back in the origins of it, there was still a 5% chance that you could get the original COVID, even if you were vaccinated. So there's still always a chance. And so the question is always, well, it improves your chances greatly, but what if you are one of those 10 and you're out hanging out? Well, I'm fully vaccinated, I'm okay. Well, no, technically you're not.
Right.
Which then is, well, do you quarantine everybody? Well, then everybody's basically stuck in their hotel room for an entire weekend, and I mean that starts to wear on you after a while. So then you're into the whole.
And then we invite 87,000 people to the stadium to enjoy the game.
Right, and then tens of thousands of people are sitting there, and you're like, wait a minute, they didn't let me leave my hotel room, but there's 80,000 people here that are just hanging out.
And speaking of, there's the Delta variant, and now there's this new
Omicron. Omicron is they skip some letters in the Greek alphabet when they name, and I don't know what the choice is. Yes, it's the newest variant. Kind of it coming out of South Africa. We do now have confirmed case in California. They did do the genetic sequencing and confirm it. It was someone who was actually fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
And had come back actually from South Africa.
Mild symptoms, though,
Correct.
right?
That's correct.
Right.
The good news was, and that's one of the things that we are still promoting, obviously, aside from just getting vaccinated, but having your vaccine does reduce, most likely, reduce the risk of severe symptoms, hospitalization, as well as, of course, the worst and scariest part, which is death. Now, nothing's foolproof again, but it does reduce. And the other thing is with this person, close contacts, nobody's tested positive at this point either.
Right.
Now, here's the thing: we know that with each variant that it's going to spread, it's going to come different places, and you just keep hoping that our vaccines are very helpful. At some point, it's inevitable, and it may be with Omicron. There's certainly talk about it that the vaccines don't work against it at all, and it's 100% resistant. But that happens too with the flu. The problem is we don't know as much about the SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, as we do the flu, and so that's a scary thing because the knowledge is how we move forward.
But we've kind of just learned to live with the flu.
Correct.
So it's
a good point.
It's one of those. Well, that's flu season. Aunt Ethel got the flu. She went to the Kroger and got the flu.
It's true. It's true. And or hey, I got my flu shot and I got sick as can be from the shot, from something whether it's a preservative or whatever, and then I still got the flu on top of it.
Right.
And it's because there's so many different, thousands upon thousands of strains of flu that are out there, and they can only put 4 in a shot.
Right.
And so we're trying to use the best guess for that. And so the other thing I think back to is if you go back, Spanish flu 100 years ago.
Right.
Well, those people were dying in the streets. They're bleeding out of their eyeballs and all kinds of badness. So I don't think it's going to take. I don't know
why I'm laughing at that, but I am.
Well, it's just right. So of all the things you pick, they're bleeding out of their eyeballs.
Jim, he's bleeding out of his eyes. What should we do?
That's right.
Let him be.
That's it. Just let him. Right. And that's kind of what they did, and they would just move the bodies away because it was we didn't have, of course, the sanitation methods that we do now. We didn't have we didn't even have the transportation type things to even move a body back then.
Right.
But part of that, the point of that is with time, your body, our bodies do adapt to what's happening. Now, hopefully it doesn't take 50 years, 60 years to be like, oh yeah, it's the flu. Oh yeah, it's coronavirus. It's COVID-19. But part of this whole thing is our bodies do have to adapt to what's going on too. And certainly, hopefully, that's going to be the scenario where with time and as we get smarter with things, they're already looking at antivirals and things, and there's some things coming out potentially. To try to help treat if even if you do get sick with the illness. Of course, we have monoclonal antibodies that we do give now that have shown good response. The hope would be is that things will be different because you can't go through a pandemic, something like this, and not have changes. But we do get more to a safer level where we can do more things and not not be as afraid, and hopefully it'll even turn into maybe more of a seasonal thing, though the way it's gone right now, who really knows? Flu is definitely something that's more seasonal.
Should we all just go get a pet pangolin and just keep it?
Gosh,
Is that what we should do? So are you telling me that my 3 pangolin? I don't know I don't know what the plural of pangolin is. I'm going to pangolini that I have out back,
I think it's probably pangolin. Yes. Make sure you cook them very well on your Blackstone. Make sure that they are nuked. I mean, we're talking extra crispy.
I like them on a bed of rice.
And don't eat the ears. The ears are that's always they're a little furry.
That's where the COVID lives, right?
Sorry, it's in the ears. No, I'm kidding. Very interesting because we're still not, and we may never know the all the origins of all of that.
Right.
That's kind of a scary thing too.
I feel like it started in a microwave. I think it was some bad pangolin.
I was gonna say, please elaborate more. They just didn't cook it enough.
They didn't. That's it.
And it's certainly other things have certainly been born out of animal consumption. And it's entirely possible this could have happened. There's certainly talk of, yes, it was probably at a market somewhere, and somebody just eating whatever delicacy that's there, and they happened to eat that and got sick from it. And here we are.
Do you think though?
But I don't know that we'll ever really know.
Right. But do you think that the panic that ensued from this was justified? And again, I don't want anybody to think that I don't believe that it's real. I mean, we've had family members that have had COVID. Right. We know people that have COVID, have or had COVID.
Right.
So I mean,
and hospitalized and quite sick with it.
Hospitalized and people who have died. I mean, and maybe there were some other medical issues they had or whatever. And I get it, but it's just, I mean, I remember as I guess I was a teenager. I don't know. After you've been alive for so long, you just kind of start.
You get everything to a certain age, and you're like, well, back there in the old days.
I want to say it was when Clinton was president.
Yeah.
One of the 8 years that he was president. Yes. So throw a dart at that timeline, and that's when it was.
We're in the 90s.
But I remember SARS.
Yes.
And I remember the bird flu.
Yes.
And I remember all these other things. And just, I mean, maybe it was because I was young, but I'm like, I don't care. I mean, there was no nationwide panic. There was no, everybody got up and.
That's a good, I think with that, the one thing that helped for example, bird flu, H1N1, we knew, flu's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. We just had a certain level of comfort. I think the way that the access to information also was not just snap your fingers,
right?
Google search, and you can get several reliable sources, and some that are not so reliable as well, and pretty much get whatever you want. So I think the access to information and the way that information travels now versus then, I think that also helps to, or hurts, may perhaps be a better word, with the panic. Now, the thing about this is it brand new. Now, the original SARS, brand new. The thing about that was it never made its way globally. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those isolated more in the Far East. Some things in Canada. That stuff.
Right.
But never really something like this where it's reached every single continent.
Right.
And also.
Or if it did, it wasn't known.
Or if it did, which good point too. And again, information exchange certainly contributes to that. I think in this world, the distribution of the information did play a role because obviously everybody's scared. The other thing too is if you think about it, the number of people that we see now that die from flu, because it still happens.
Sure.
not that high. And if you think about it, you're like, well, I might know one or two people.
Right.
I mean, being in the medical field, I know more people.
Of course.
Because you run into that. But most people are like, yeah, I know a couple people, maybe one or two people. Thinking about this, people know several people at this point that have died from COVID-19.
That's true.
And so the severity of it when it does hit you like that is the thing that causes the panic. The other thing is it really doesn't make a true rhyme or reason how it's going to affect you. And when it first kind of broke there in the February, March of last year, what we know now is it was here even earlier.
Right.
We have confirmed cases. That was in the Infectious Disease Society of America journal last year that they knew back in December, based upon blood tests, that it was even in 2019.
Right.
And so there were milder symptoms. People thought, well, I had bad sinus infection, I had upper respiratory infection, whatever the case may be. Fast forward, it's like, oh gosh, there's this new thing that's out there. And so I think the newness of it, the fact that you don't really know how it's going to hit you. Now, certainly risk factors like obesity, having, COPD, asthma, diabetes, heart disease, those things put you at risk.
Bleeding from the eyes.
Bleeding from the eyes, yes. I have a history of bleeding from the eyes. All those things.
Right.
But then again, I know perfectly healthy people that it took them down.
Yeah.
And I know people in healthcare who have gotten sick with it, and in the beginning, in the inception of this whole thing, and people not realizing that they had it, whether it's coming to dialysis or they show up in the hospital getting, and these healthcare workers got sick, and they are still sick now. And that's a very scary thing. So they survived, but their lungs look like a bomb went off inside of them.
Right.
And they're still on oxygen, and the psychological toll when you're your 40s, 50s,
sure, and
that's hitting you, it really wears on you. And so I think that's the other thing is the long haulers, if you will. That's the people who have had COVID and they still have residual stuff, whatever it may be. I mean, that can be muscle aches, it can be shortness of breath, it can just be the terrible fatigue, it can be the mental fog. That's the other thing that makes this, from a panic standpoint, you're like, oh my gosh, typically with the flu, even if you get sick, a couple weeks at the most,
right,
and you're out of it. Same thing, mono, you do ultimately get better. Whatever the case may be, we typically recover. What we're seeing with this is you may not. And you may be a full year removed and you still feel like garbage. And that's a scary thing because
it is.
You lived, but your life is forever affected. And then you get into, it goes way beyond just the virus itself, into the mental strain of having to live with that, because that affects you, if whether you're married, you have kids, your job, just trying to go to the mailbox and get your mail, all these things are affected. And I think that's where, when this really broke, I think that's where people were getting really scared, because the death toll was fairly high for the overall number of cases, particularly in the beginning. And that's a scary thing. And then people were getting sick, and then we're going down months and months, and it's not really going away. And then we're having people that have all these long-term symptoms that really just are negatively affecting their whole lives, and that's a really bad thing. So I think the panic is warranted from that standpoint. Now, unfortunately, and we're doing a media show naturally, right? Unfortunately, with the media, it's not. We're in a day and age where the drama and the fear is what is preyed upon, because that's what sells news.
Right.
And so I do think those things made it worse in a sense. And that's not, I'm not trying to blame somebody for doing their job per se, because we all need a job.
Well, it's like the Weather Channel. If there, listen, if there's no hurricanes and there's no disasters, then it's a light day. And here's what's, I'm telling you, you know,
remember when that guy he acted like the wind was hitting him and he really wasn't? Do you remember that
Yes,
weather?
I remember
That was so bad. That is not the situation with COVID. No, so we don't have that per se.
I mean, listen, I mean, I used to do morning radio, and I got so excited when there was something going on, and you kind of feel bad about it, but it's like, oh, well, now I have something to talk about. I mean, you know,
it's true. You can get in that mundaneness, and we certainly is mundaneness a word? Yes,
sure.
Yes, we won't. I don't have me say that 10 times.
Pangolin and mundaneness.
We're breaking ground on originals with Dave and Doc. Yes, we are. Yes, we have no sponsors, so again, the budget is thin.
That's right.
You know, I think that's a good point. Certainly, this is news, and it is something that has had a prolonged course, and so it is something that you're able to not get in the stagnant state. It's you can keep talking about it in some form or fashion,
right?
And so yeah, I think the media and the politics of it have made it certainly more complicated, and it's created a lot of maybe additional panic and also a lot of just distrust.
Right.
And that's not good for something like this, because the illness is very serious, but the political games of it and everything have certainly, I just think it's just made the whole pandemic, the whole ordeal, just a lot worse.
Well, and I mean, here's an example when you're talking about getting excited over the misfortune of somebody else, and this is a true story. When I was doing morning,
bleeding out their eyes.
That's right. Doing morning radio, had nothing to really talk about for the next morning, and so I'm like, you know, scouring the internet was just kind of a thing, just becoming a thing, and all of a sudden this story hits about Marv Levy, right? And I mean, I don't even remember the whole story. I just remember he was found in high heels and like a garter or something, right? And I mean, hey, to each his own. But I just remember this story hit, and like, here's a guy that it basically ruined his career for like several years. I mean, he's broadcasting again now. Yeah. One of the greatest voices.
Marv Albert.
Yeah, sorry, not what did I say? Marv Levy.
Marv Levy. Those 4 Super Bowl losses
I'm sorry.
took him.
I'm sorry, Marv.
Marv Albert.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Marv Albert with the best toupee in the business.
That is spectacular.
True spectacular.
That is.
I mean, run around in high heels and a dress.
A spectacular move.
And that's right. That's it.
That was him. Not Marv Levy. Marv, I'm very sorry if you ever hear this.
Marv Levy, the good human.
A gem of a human.
My friend Chris Jones is going to come down here from Kentucky and hurt you. He's a huge Bills fan from the southwestern part of New York. So,
God bless him. 4 years in a row.
Good hardworking people. No, so yeah, Marv Albert, and the biting thing too.
Yeah, and I mean,
bit his companion, and
just the thought of Marv Albert in toupee, in drag, essentially.
Right. Or Marv Albert sans toupee.
Yeah, even worse.
Full uniform.
And I mean, I probably talked about that for an hour.
Yes.
And I mean, here's a guy that actually, he's a great broadcaster. I mean, great professional. And I talked about him for like an hour, and I was so excited that we had something funny to talk about. True. So the misfortune of others, but I mean, the Clinton scandal, pick your Clinton, yes, but I mean, either Clinton scandal, but I mean, when Bill was the president and the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, it was, I mean, the news media seems to take something and just kind of drive it into the ground and then just kind of wait around and hope something else comes. Oh, there's another disaster. Let's go talk about that. And it makes it a million times worse. And for uneducated people, that's probably, I'm going to stick with it. For uneducated people, sometimes, whatever is on NBC Nightly News or CNN or Fox News, right, that's what they believe. They do no research.
It's gospel to them.
Or you do self-driven or agenda-driven research where you just keep Googling until you find something that proves your point. Oh, well, this guy said the same thing I said. And it's just, and it's hard to know what's true and what's not.
I think that's a good point, and certainly that's not something new as you're
Yeah.
touching on. And there's a colleague of mine. He made a good point one time in a meeting. He's a really good doc, and he said, you can find a study
Oh, sure.
on anything.
Yeah.
And it will point you the way that you want it
Absolutely.
to go. He said, and part of our job is to be able to say, well, yes, there was one study that shows that. However, there's other ones with more patients or a better devised study plan, or that counteracts what you're trying to look at, and so definitely some of the misconceptions that are out there, and even not just for COVID, the virus, but just even with the vaccine itself,
Right.
And I think there's a lot of misconception on both fronts of that, and that's made it difficult for people to feel comfortable potentially getting the shot.
Yeah.
Which right now that is the best thing we have to try to combat it. And the things that are out there, I mean, you hear everything from it's going to alter our DNA to it's going to cause infertility. All these different things.
I grew a third arm, just so you know.
This is a family show. I'm gonna leave that alone. Gonna leave that alone. It's a family show light.
But the vaccination thing, here's what drives me nuts. We get vaccinated for everything else.
True.
Right? I mean, we found a way to curb chickenpox.
We did. And
Polio.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's things that like, oh yeah, you get the vaccine so you don't get polio. Yeah, I don't know about this COVID thing. I mean, what's the government trying to do to me?
Yes.
I mean, what?
So that's another.
And it was rushed. I mean, the vaccine was rushed. I mean, there's no doubt about that, right? I mean,
Right.
they sent a guy home and said, "Hey, Cliff, go work on this in your basement." And he calls Pfizer and goes, "I got it." That's probably not what happened, but I mean, it was rushed, but it was rushed because of the panic. I mean that.
Truth, and the panic and the fact that we didn't really have anything, to combat it, and that's scary. You know what? Because what do you fear? You fear what you don't understand, and you fear when it's like, oh my gosh, this is happening, and there's nothing we can do.
Right.
And the good news is for the vaccine. Part of the reason they were able to make it so quickly is because we're using the messenger RNA system of delivery, which is something new for human vaccines. Now, here's the good news. We've been looking at that for 2 decades. So this is not new, per se.
The method isn't new.
The method is not
right.
new. Actually, putting it in the humans is new.
Right.
Now, part of the reason we didn't have to do that is we already had vaccines that were stable and long-term here.
Were they using pangolins before humans? Is that what happened?
And it got out, right?
That's it.
It could have been. It could have been the pangolin ate the cockroach, and then the human ate the pangolin, and then
that's right.
The human went and Marv Albert was involved, and all
and Marv Levy,
and all kinds of badness just broke loose. So the thing with it, back to that for the vaccine, the mRNA is much quicker to create. And so that was part of the reason we picked it, was because I didn't really pick it, but the researchers picked it.
That's all right. I'm an NFL owner too.
That's right.
So.
But you have a certificate. I have a potential diploma in my office. But nothing on the research end. Mass production. We were able to do it. We were able to get it and test it, and they did do. I mean, Pfizer tested it was like 68,000 people, and they got a good demographic too. I mean, they didn't just test a bunch of 40-year-old white dudes, which for a long time, 40 and 50-year-old white dudes, that's about all we got for research.
Right.
And then they were like, wait a minute, this is not good. And so, research has gotten a lot wiser, and so they had good mix of gender, ethnicity, background, that sort of stuff.
Right.
And so. They're rushing it because we've never been in this scenario within most of our lifetimes, pretty much all of our lifetimes. And so they create that. And, the other thing that was beneficial was animals do get vaccines like this, and so we have a lot of animal data.
Yeah.
It's kind of retrospective, but animals have been getting things like this, and it hadn't, to the best of our knowledge, done anything just so egregious that people said, "Whoa,
Right.
my dog, grew a third ear or started bleeding out their ears or eyes or,
Right.
or whatever his leg fell off." What?
Right.
Nothing like that's happened. And so we did have some data. It's just it wasn't in a human yet. But then, like I said, they did do a good job, with the trial. It was just you get concerned. You're like, wait a minute, how'd they do that fast? Well,
But I mean, technology. I mean, it gets better, right? I mean,
Correct.
I mean, we're all eager to jump into a self-driving car, and we don't even question how we came to that point.
right.
But
Like when Tesla's cars were blowing up.
right. I mean, it's like
It's like
oh,
it's no big deal.
it's like I mean, 1 out of every 100 blow up. I mean, Chevy will get it right at some point. I'm just going to keep driving my Volt.
That's it.
But I mean, so we just accept this as just the norm until it comes to something like this, and then it's, well, how did they come up with? Well, I mean, because technology's advanced. I mean, we're not where we were 100 years ago,
Right.
trying to come up with a vaccine.
That's correct. That's correct. No, definitely, and just understanding too the the technology and the I'll even say the money making aspect of it.
Sure.
There's a lot you can get done when there is not just for the money and that, but for the good of humankind. I mean, that's what these researchers really do. What they do.
Yeah.
Now the pharmaceutical companies, they will say that.
Right.
But obviously, I mean, they are profit driven.
Yes.
But most, having known researchers that's dedicate their whole lives, but most researchers they get paid well, but that's not really why they do it. They actually do want to help folks, and so the opportunity to help also accelerated it because it allowed them, the opportunity to try to start helping people as quick as we can. The paranoia comes in with the politics of it, the advertisements for it, you're going to have to get this. Well, as soon as you tell people that,
Right.
they were like, no, I don't.
Right.
Because you're not going to force me to put something in my body, which that has always been the case. It's like we recommend this, but are we going to make you get it? That's still your personal self. And that's what I've talked to a lot of people about. I'm like, I want you to get this, and I believe in the vaccine. I support it. This is not a devil thing. This is something that we, God gives us the ability to create things. I mean,
Right.
And so I think the issue being it's kind of your purpose driven research. It was too fast. Well, they're going to make me get it. Well, it doesn't work 100%. Truth, but it's the best thing we got going, and it does work.
Right.
It does, and so but I think the politic part of that and the distrust in a capitalist environment, if you will, has certainly brought a lot of negative aspects to it.
I mean, if you drive off a cliff, I mean, the seatbelt may not save your life, but you've probably got a better chance wearing it, So, I mean, why not just wear it? I don't, I mean, if they started giving people the vaccine and people were dying left and right or bleeding out of their eyes or whatever, then it's like, oh, okay. But I mean, there's no data to support that. I mean,
that's true, and it's of course the argument back on that is, yeah, but we don't know because it's not been out for years and years. So 10 years from now, we might legitimately all have a third arm,
right?
But the odds are super low.
Well,
I mean because we're most things when you get that type of reaction, it's going to happen pretty quickly.
Right.
The other thing is that the messenger RNA that we're using right now, it does not live inside you forever. It does not. I mean, if we took it out and put it on the table, it's dead in I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes, probably tops. It's not something that the stability is, so it doesn't bind into your DNA sequence and cause you a problem that could lead to some sort of mismatch repair of your your cell cycle where you get cancer,
Right.
or it causes you to be infertile, whatever. The way it's put together, if you look at the science aspect of it, it's not possible. The way it's designed, it's not possible to do something like that. Now, there's always a risk because in the end, we're not in control. We're
Right.
not in control. But this distrust, I do think that the political nature of it and trying to force it,
Right.
and it's kind of one of those like, okay, yes, trying to motivate as many people to get it as possible is the way to go, but it's like they got the wrong toolbox, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, and said, okay, we're going to get the socket wrench set instead of my pipe wrench, and we're going to try to take this off and get it to work. And that just wasn't. They grabbed the wrong box.
Well, I mean,
that's caused a lot of problems.
We probably have more data on this vaccine and the virus than we do with the long-term effects of vaping. So I mean, and I don't know how much research is going into the long-term effects of vaping, but I mean,
and actually quite a bit, kind of off topic, but quite a bit for that actually, because obviously remember when those people were getting those bad lung infections.
Oh yeah,
and again, it's a very hot debated topic because of course the people that are business owners, they're saying no, it's not equivalent to smoking, it's not as bad. Look at this, but a lot of the mainstay research institutions are going, this is really bad.
Here's what I know. It looks ridiculous is what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Okay. I mean, it looks ridiculous. There's nothing worse than driving down the road and someone rolls down their window and just this pillar of smoke just comes out. Like
it's like we're sending smoke signals.
It is. I mean, it's like
a lot of the pipes are like, it looks like a flask with like a duck call stuck to the end of it. You're like, what is that? Oh, they're vaping. There you go. It's cherry flavor.
The off point of that is, we still don't know the long-term effects of that, and people are willingly doing it all the time, right? So, I mean, people put stuff in their bodies all the time that they don't know what it's going to do.
Correct.
Let's smoke it, chew it, inject it, absorb it, whatever. But here's a vaccine that a lot of super smart researchers have come up with. Yeah, I just don't trust it. Really? Is that the case? I mean,
I think that's a really good point. And obviously, being a healthcare provider, I mean, I do trust the science behind it.
Right.
And again, that gets into, I think there's these other things environmentally, socially that are out there that are actually what drive the distrust more.
Sure.
And I think as we continue to move through time, I think a lot of that continues to be debunked. I think the benefits of it are certainly outweighing the risks, and I think people will see that. Now, on that same token, the making people do it, I think that's the key, because people just come straight out and they're like, you're not going to make me do something. I'm a grown dadgum man,
right?
Or a woman, whatever. You're not going to make me do it. And
even though our government makes us do all sorts of things that we've just learned to live with.
True.
I mean, we have to drive a certain speed. We have to drive on a certain side of the road. We have to do certain things in our vehicles. We have to do certain things to be able to drive vehicles. We have to.
Truth.
If you're going to travel in the airport, there's certain things that you have to do, and if you don't, you will be removed in an aggressive fashion. And
it's true.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny that people start bringing up their rights, and I mean, really. I just don't. You have to pay your taxes, and you have to. You
don't have to.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's true. It depends on who you are.
Now, fraud is bad, and there are a few things the government really has been consistent over the years of getting people for, and fraud is one of them.
Yes.
And fraudulent tax stuff, it's actually pretty low hanging fruit because they either have your tax return or they don't.
That's right.
If they don't, then they're sitting there going, you've not filed in 6 years. Something is wrong.
You're still alive.
You are not dead.
And that's right.
Yes, and where is our money? So
this message brought to you by the IRS.
That's it. They might be our first sponsor. You never know. So I think it does get back to, for example, you go through the airport. Okay, what are you doing when you're going to the airport? You're flying somewhere
Right.
that you want to go. Well, or for business, which is part of your job, and you are required to go.
Right.
So we're complicit in that because one way or the other, that's part of our agenda.
Right.
For this, it depends on your thoughts. Getting the vaccine may not be part of your agenda. It's the same thing with, well, I know lots of people, they don't get a flu shot.
Right. Me being one of them, because I'm terrified of needles.
Right.
This
right.
is true.
And so I think that's where it plays in a factor too, is because the initial kind of what came out was, well, these are folks that are uneducated, and
Right.
they, they're anti-vaxxers, and that's only made it worse too, because that's actually not true, because I know people that aren't vaccinated and all their kids have all their vaccines.
Right.
Some of them even get a flu shot. They just don't want to get a COVID-19 shot because they just want to know more about it.
Right.
Now, it's been out for a while. This is not something that just magically appeared. But they still just have reservations. And they also understand if they get sick with it, they can very easily discuss with you, yes, I understand that I could go into florid respiratory failure from any, whether it's infectious or blood clot or whatever, and that could take my life, and they
Right.
really understand it. Now, is everybody on that same? No, that's how it always was with anything.
Well, some people just like to say no to say no.
Correct, and so you do have that, and I think that's the part where it's that's what people for the vaccine, they're grabbing that subset of people and saying,
Right.
you just want to say no, and it's like, well, yes, but how many people is that really of the 25, 26-ish% that are unvaccinated? I don't know that. I don't know that. Maybe it's a 50-50 split, maybe it's only like 5%. There's also some strength in numbers, and so I think you do get these areas where people feel similarly from a political viewpoint, from just a life viewpoint, and so they're like, nope, I'm not getting it. We're not getting it. I know there's a lot of concern for younger people. When you hear the word infertility, I mean, obviously these kids are young. It's like, don't worry about that right now, in the sense of,
Right.
you really shouldn't be doing those things in which we could become pregnant. Outside the confines of marriage, does that happen? Of course it does. That's always the way it's been. But they hear that, and it's because somebody else has mentioned it and talked about it, and then when you actually look at things, it's not true. And knowing patients that got the vaccine, they are pregnant, they are having babies.
Right.
It did not create. So even in real life, where you can touch this person, it is not a problem. And so, but those things are scary when you're 19 or 20, because you
Right.
theoretically, barring a tragic accident or developing some sort of incurable cancer, you're looking forward, 10, 20 years down the road for those things. But you get the set of folks that feel the same way, and then there's a strength in numbers mentality that plays a role too.
There was a great video that I watched on YouTube of the guy who was complaining about the vaccine, and he was talking about his rights. And in the left corner, you could see his ashtray. And there was just, I mean,
It's like, buddy,
clearly
buddy.
you're actively trying to kill yourself anyway.
Right. Free will. But again, I think that, there's that free will aspect to it.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
if you want to smoke yourself to death, you made that choice.
Right.
Nobody held you down and held, Cools or Marlboros to your lips and said, you must puff on this, and you will suck down 20 plus cigarettes a day, or we're going to do something bad to you. No, Mo, that's not how that works.
That's true. That's true.
And so I think the free will component is a big deal with the folks that are choosing not to be vaccinated. And again, there's a lot of folks, smart folks, understand the risks. They're just not comfortable with it. And those folks I feel bad for, because they are being forced to get it in a lot of cases by employers.
Yeah.
And that's tough because we're also in kind of this hard to get people to work. Hard. The interview pools are not what they once were, and then you do hire somebody and they're not coming to work, but maybe once a week, or even that you hire them and they never even show up, or they'll get a week's paycheck. And then they just disappear, and then they'll come back in a month. Oh, can I still have a job? It's like, well, no, I've been killing myself here by myself for the last month doing my contract work because you left me. And so I think that's the other pushback is you have a lot of good people that are coming to work trying to do the right things, and then they're being forced to do something. And even people that are vaccinated say, yeah, that's probably not the right thing to do to those folks, because they are trying to be good humans aside from just not getting the shot. And that's a hard thing to have to really, I guess. And again, what's the quantifiable number on that? I don't know. I don't know how to how well you can quantify that number.
I don't know. It certainly changed the landscape. I mean, there's fast food restaurants now that are nearing $20 an hour.
Right. Pay rate's another thing.
I mean, it's amazing because they can't get anybody to come to work, And that's cool for the people that work there. But honestly, I'm a big Popeyes fan, and I don't want to pay more for my chicken, but I know that I'm going to have to, because I know the dude behind the counter is making $25 an hour.
Right. And the other thing is it outprices these smaller businesses because they can't keep up with that.
Right.
And so, a lot of the, whether it's a dining establishment or appliance repair shop or whatever.
Right.
Either they're not going to have anybody to, if they have family who will take over the business and understand this is how this works, but if you're having to hire help outside of that, you're not going to be able to keep up with this.
Yeah.
It's just now, is $7, $7.25 or whatever it is that reasonable minimum wage? I don't know. I mean, inflation's so high right now. No, it's not. You're not going to be able to survive on that. But going 15, 20 just straight out the gate.
Yeah. I know.
And I like Popeyes too, but it ain't $20 an hour.
No,
for my love that chicken from Popeyes. With the seasoning, it's not. So that's and when you're paying $19.99 for 4 chicken strips and some
potato a bucket of chicken's going to be $70.
Right.
And listen, and I love
it's like, am I buying gas or am I buying chicken?
It's like everybody gets to eat one wing a day. We got to conserve this, okay? Because this is our week of food.
We're going to portion it out. It's going to be just like The Martian with Matt Damon.
That's right.
You have to cut the portions.
Great movie.
And try to have ketchup. That's right. If you're out of ketchup,
that's right.
Dip it in your Vicodin.
That's
please don't do that. That's not recommended. No.
Is that a prescription you've ever written for somebody? Is
no
Vicodin infused?
Dip in the potato. No, crush it up. Dip in the potato. No, we have never gone that route. No, we stray away from those sorts of scripts.
Yeah, we can give you the Vicodin, or we can give you ketchup that's been infused with Vicodin.
That's it. Right. Yes. Pfizer is working on a dual combination where it's actually potato pureed with Vicodin, and they're throwing it out there. No, absolutely not. No, that's a joke. No.
It would be mustard anyway. It wouldn't be ketchup.
Right, exactly.
It'd be mustard.
Exactly.
I feel like you could hide the taste a little better in mustard.
The vinegar.
Yeah.
What goes? There's vinegar and ketchup too, but probably the mustard. Yeah, I'd go along with that.
I think you could hide it a little better.
There's more. It's more of that soury. Because the sweetness of the ketchup it would allow it to be exposed.
And then if Aaron Rodgers cramps up on the field, you can squirt some mustard. Hey, we're just giving him some mustard.
That's one of my favorite things when they're hitting those little nutritional packets and it's looking like they're sucking a kitty applesauce.
Oh yeah,
I'm so jealous of those because they're delicious, but they're so expensive. And I'm like, those guys they get it's like a meal in a squeeze.
Oh, it is.
But they're so expensive, man. Have you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
But they taste. This is so random. I know we got way off topic, but they're so tasty. but I'm not paying that amount of money
No.
for that, and it just drives. I'm so every time, Russell Wilson over there on the sideline sucking on a whatever it is, and I'm just like, man, I would just love to have one of those. Of course, now it's going to be $100 for one of those packets, and your chicken's $70 for an 8-piece.
Well, when I go to the annual shareholders meeting of the team that I own,
I think that would be very legit.
I'll bring that up.
Say, we're straying away from our key values here. Yes.
Any new items of business? Yes. I want to talk about those little protein packets, and I think those should be reasonably priced.
That's right. We need to drive this down. This yes, because Doc likes them, but he's not going to pay that money. No, absolutely not.
Well, have we exhausted it for today?
I think so. I mean, big day for college football, real fast.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's a huge day for college football.
So big day.
So many Georgia fans here we're in Knoxville for you, and a lot of Georgia fans here. I'm a Florida State fan, have been my entire life. If there was going to be a team other than Florida State that I pulled for some reason. And I grew up in Virginia, and so we didn't have a lot of options there. So Georgia would probably, we just didn't.
I can't do it, man. No, so being University of Tennessee, and of course they got all my money, so I would root for them regardless. But
till they pay you back, right?
That's right. That's my school. When I was in school, Georgia fans were the worst. Of course, we were beating Alabama consistently.
Right.
Georgia and Florida. Georgia, just horrible. And so there's no way on earth I'm ever rooting for them. Quick story, in 2001, we were playing them at home, and that's the game where Travis Stevens took the screen pass and went like 72 yards.
Yep.
Scored in the final minutes. So there's like 45 seconds on the clock. We had Georgia fans behind us at the stadium, okay, because of course I went to every home game when I was in college.
Right.
And these people are just talking smack the whole game, just obnoxious. And I'm doing good, I'm with my buddies, and our girlfriends are there, and we're enjoying it because it's a good game,
Right.
But they are just going. He catches that ball, takes it to the house. The stadium's going nuts, and I turned around, and they're like 3 rows back, so it's not like we're right on top of each other.
Right.
And I told him to go home in no uncertain terms. And God rest my mother's soul. She would have been ashamed. And here's the thing. There was no alcohol involved. There was nothing. It was just a pure sports fan moment. I mean, just lucid, and I just let them have it. Every word, every playground, school, every word I'd ever learned, and just let them have it. And it was hilarious. And then they went down and scored in like 37 seconds. And the funny part is number one, I had to eat crow like nobody's business. And I always said, if I just kept my mouth shut, I think we would have won that game, And that was the year. That was, of course, with the year 9/11.
Right.
And so that was actually, we beat Florida in the swamp and had a chance to go to the Rose Bowl. And of course, we blew it to LSU in the SEC title game. But I always remember that game with Georgia the most because those fans, I guess I scared them to death. They really didn't say much after they scored that last touchdown. But I was like, I totally, and I'm not really that superstitious, maybe a little bit. I know that was punishment for me letting them have it, So, and then the following year we went to Georgia, and we're walking in the gate, and this dude puts his hands on me going inside the gate and goes, here, I'm Jim Bob Cooter, which was, of course, was one of our backup quarterbacks back in the day.
Right.
Who's gone on to be a successful assistant coach in the NFL. And so this guy and I are about to get into it, right? And I mean, of course, and the security guards are right there.
Right.
We're about to get into it. And of course, they separate us. And it's like this, there's all, 5 of us there. It was 3 of them and then me and my buddy. And I'm like, and it was just the rudeness of it,
Right.
Because of course he grabbed me and I spun around with my arm and knocked his arms loose, and then we're about to have a roadhouse rumble because he's just a jerk. But the problem is we'd have gotten thrown out of the game. They almost didn't let us in the game.
Right.
And that was so stupid. I'm like, why did you do that? Just tell him to go away. And so anyway, so I always, and it's just always been that way. So I'm rooting for Bama, the evil empire. Yes, they got it. Georgia's got to face their Vader. Well, I'm going for Vader. I can't.
I think as of this morning, Georgia was still favored by 6.5.
Oh, I think if ever they're going to get him. Or get them, I should say. But if Kirby's ever going to get Nick Saban,
today's the day.
This is it. If he doesn't get it done this year, I don't know. It's just I think psychologically that Nick Saban is just the champion.
So then, can a 2-loss Alabama team still be in the playoffs?
So have they lost 2 games? I think they've only lost.
If they lose today,
no.
Yeah.
If they lose today, I think they're out.
Yeah.
And then you've got some controversy because you probably really want Oklahoma State to win.
Yeah.
Because that makes it a lot easier.
It does.
And you want Cincinnati probably to win in that scenario too, because then you've got Georgia, probably Michigan. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Right.
I mean, anything can happen. You'd have Georgia, Michigan, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State. If Alabama loses, obviously they're out. Georgia's in, no doubt.
Right.
If Oklahoma State loses, then you've got Baylor with 2 losses, Oklahoma State with 2 losses. Baylor does win the title game, though. I don't think Cincinnati's going to win. I think Dana Holgorsen and Houston. I think
that's a tough matchup.
I think they're. I mean, they lost their first game, Houston, to Texas Tech, if I remember correctly. They've won 11 in a row, and I mean, and it's not been close. Like, I think their average margin of victory is like 20.
They're scoring points when they're not even trying to score points.
So I think they're going to beat them. Now, and so what? So then in that scenario, what you want is you want Oklahoma State to still win, and then you have Georgia, Michigan, Oklahoma State, and then probably I guess you would have like Notre Dame or somebody swing in for which.
Right.
I'm not a huge Notre Dame fan.
I'm not either, but the committee loves them.
But that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, but I think Houston's going to win. I think it's going to be a little bit of chaos because I think that Baylor's going to win, and I think Georgia. Even though I'm pulling for Alabama, I think Georgia's going to win, and then you've got a bunch of 2-loss people hanging out, and then probably what you're going to happen is Notre Dame will get in, and then do you take a 2-loss team,
right?
Or do you still take Cincinnati, or does Houston jump up? What do you do? Because you've got these 2-loss teams that are all kind of bunched together, and then or do you really take an Alabama team that's lost 2 games and lost the SEC championship?
And outside of Alabama, I mean, the only team that we've talked about that I think can match up with Georgia is Michigan. Yeah. Because it's just physical football. They're big up front.
They proved that last week against Ohio State.
Georgia against Cincinnati. Georgia against Notre Dame, against Oklahoma State.
No, it'd be ugly.
Georgia, I mean, today's basically, in my opinion, sorry for all the folks who are fans of other teams, today's the national championship game. I mean, I really believe it.
I think that's a legitimate.
And if Alabama wins,
and think about how many years that's actually happened.
Oh yeah,
where SEC and it's like, yep, whoever wins this is going to be.
And I think Alabama, if they win today, I think the rematch will be the actual national championship game.
I agree
because they'll play each other again.
I think you'll see it'll be like LSU Alabama. Several years ago.
Because Bama would probably move up to. I don't know what they would move up to. Probably 3 if they beat Georgia today. Maybe 3, maybe 2.
I think they'll end up. So if
they will make sure that Bama and Georgia will not play each other in the semifinals. Guarantee it.
I think what they and I think you're 100% right. And so I think what they do, I think you'd see if Georgia was to lose, Bama goes maybe to number 1. Leapfrogs Michigan, which I think that's going to be hard to do if Michigan wins, though.
If Michigan wins, I would think they would be 1.
I think you end up with either Bama goes to 1, Georgia drops to 3. More likely scenario is Bama ends up being like number 2,
right?
And Georgia drops to 4,
right?
Which I kind of hate. Assuming everybody else wins,
right?
Assuming everybody else wins. unless Oklahoma State wins, which I think Baylor's going to beat them. I really do. Baylor, when Oklahoma State beat them 24-14, like week 3 of the season, Baylor's a different team now. I really think
they are.
I think Baylor's going to win. I really do. But if Oklahoma State wins, then you're in a scenario. Do you take the big? I think you have to take the Big 12 champion with one loss, and then Georgia maybe even ends up outside of it at number 5.
Maybe.
If Cincinnati wins. If Cincinnati loses, then I think what you end up with is you've got Michigan number 1, assuming they win. Alabama's number 2. I'm going to say Oklahoma State pops into number 3, and then Georgia at number 4.
Right.
I think that's how it'll be. If Cincinnati loses, I think that's and Bama wins, I think that's
Cincinnati's either going to lose today or 3.5 weeks from now.
Yeah, right.
One or the other.
Right.
I mean, because I can't.
No, I think it's really awesome what Luke Fickle's done.
I do too. I love Luke Fickle. He's a great coach.
I would love for him to keep winning. I really think today's going to be the reckoning.
Yeah.
I really do. That Houston team, again, they lost their first game of the season, and people are like,
This is like this.
They are a good team. I mean, their defense is amazing. Tune is their quarterback, Tune, which I just love that. I mean, they are a really good team, and it's kind of like they're the sleeping giant. Now they're not going to get into the playoff, obviously, but I think they're going to chop them down.
Yeah.
I just think that's the way it's going to be. I mean, Cincinnati's kind of flirted with just, it's like, okay, we're not hitting our top speed, and I think Houston's at top speed right now.
Well, Cincinnati tends to play down to their opponents. I've probably only watched 3 games this year, but they play down to the level of their opponents. So.
I agree, and I think they're going to get shocked. I think they're going to, Houston's going to hit them early, and I think that they're not going to be able to recover against them. I just think it's the way it's going to be. And then, I mean, obviously the SEC championship is the one I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting if Oklahoma State wins.
Yeah.
I think that if Oklahoma State wins and Cincinnati wins, do you then
what do you do?
And then if Alabama wins, do you really kick Georgia out, who by far, is a top 4 team when you really break it down?
If
or does somebody get shut out like Cincinnati or Oklahoma State, which would probably be Oklahoma State, and then Oklahoma State's going, we only lost 1 game.
I think if the SEC championship was against a like LSU, like if it was Georgia LSU, like they couldn't, whatever. If it was a team that wasn't the caliber of Alabama, then you could make an argument that Georgia would drop out of the top 4. I don't think if Alabama beats Georgia by 100 points today, which would make you happy, but if they did, I still don't think Georgia drops out of the top 4. I don't even know they dropped to 4th. I think they may just drop to 2nd or 3rd.
I mean, I think that's a good question. The thing you wouldn't want, like you said, is if you put them 2 and 3, then they play each other right again, right after that. And I just don't. I mean, now you want it to be the way it's supposed to be, but I don't want them to play each other right again the very next time.
Right.
I would rather them be playing each other in the title game. Assuming that they both win once they.
Well, it's like Bama LSU years ago. It was the same thing happened.
Exactly.
In 3 weeks, they played each other again.
And Bama beat them.
And to the same, and
Bama didn't let them score a touchdown.
They didn't cross the 50-yard line.
No, right.
In that game.
It was 9-6 when LSU beat them, and then Bama goes in there and beats them like 22.
The memes were terrible. There was like the new constructed field for the national championship. It was a 50-yard field. I'm like, oh gosh, that's awful. But.
The days of old. So but good stuff today. So watch some college football and listen to our podcast if you have a chance, and certainly enjoyed this, and we'll be trying to have some more as we move forward.
Yeah, and if you have any tips, I've got a lot of like Pangle and I out there that I've got to feed and doing some research.
If you use the yum sauce, it is fabulous.
That's.
And you get just enough seasoning on the Blackstone that you have to, you want to scrape it, but you just, you don't want to.
You want to leave some of the.
That's it. You got a little remnant. Cook it well. Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna actually go buy a pangolin, I think now. So I don't know. I don't know what I don't even know what they are. But I mean, I've seen one, but I don't know like what.
I have no idea.
I don't know what category they fall into.
They I don't think they have a pouch, so it's not a marsupial.
Yeah, so it's like
it's almost like a bat, like some sort of thing.
It's like
it's a thing.
It's like an anteater and a cat and a cockroach got together.
Some sort of breeding occurs, and we got to paint. That's it, man.
All right, folks, that's it.
Thank y'all.
And just in case you forgot what it sounded like, this is the tail end music. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.